Hello, everyone. Welcome to Wellness with Dr. Mariam. If you have found us on the Eventbrite, please click the YouTube link because when you go to the YouTube link, you will be able to ask the questions live and as well as get the response. All right. So, hi, Vincent.
Hey Doc, how are you doing?
I'm good. And how are you doing?
Okay.
It's nice to have you here today. And thank you for making your time to be with us today. And also thank you everyone for spending the lunchtime, to be with us today and finding out more about moving our health to greater heights. Okay, so before I begin, right, if some of you have not known who is Vincent, let me do a very short introduction. His bio is very long and very impressive. Okay, so I will try to extract some points from his bio. Okay, so Vincent Yong is Singapore's only registered movement analyst and registered somatic movement educator and therapist. Okay, so with over 20 years of international experience, Vincent has helped more than 18,000 people from over 30 countries. Wow. So, to help them with overcoming chronic issues, healing, and learning blocks. Vincent is the author of Flow, the Art of Creating Abundance, and was a presenter at Harvard University Neuroscience Conference. Vincent sits on the International Association of Dance Medicine and Science Task Force for Intersectionality in Worldwide Dance Practices. So, valuing the importance of healing and growth, Vincent founded Dancepire International for his clients and students to experience healing and growth. Okay, so that's a very short introduction.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vincent.
Thank you, Doc.
I mean, I know like if I were to engage you for a talk, it's gonna cost me 1,500. And so I'm really happy that he's willing to spend the time with us today to do a brief introduction about his work, okay, and also to share with us more about somatic movement. Okay, since it's a pretty new field, right, Vincent, in Singapore?
Yeah, I think somatic work is getting trendier now worldwide, and especially from a context of a very small island like ourselves. Yeah, we are still catching on, and it's a lot of people who are, kind of opening their eyes now, like, huh, what is this somatic thing? And yeah, there might be some practitioners out there who is really keen and applying it on various purposes. So it's good to always check your local listings, right? If the therapies are actually registered, they have this directory where you can actually access them. So in ISMETA, the International Somatic Movement Education and Therapy Association, you will be able to see a list of practitioners worldwide. Yeah, and who is where, what they're doing, what's their focus. Yeah, so it's really cool to actually have access for these amazing practitioners and see what they can do for you and see what you can get out of them. Yeah.
Okay. So I was thinking, do you want me to start with asking the questions, or would you like to do a presentation of a bit of
Mm,
your work?
maybe you can ask the questions and I'll see where I can come in. I did, prepare a slide, and I think what is important is also to be more congruent and consistent because it's a very short time of sharing, right? And so
Yeah.
let's keep it concise and let's fit the time in
Okay.
because I don't know how long people can have their lunch with us. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So since we say that somatic movement is pretty new, right?
Mhm.
So a few questions that I have at the top of my mind is what is somatic movement? If you can give us some idea onto it, and if you can share how you get into this field
Mm.
and what exactly do you do in somatic movement,
Wow. Okay.
and yeah, and how is it different from exercise? And okay, maybe
That's a lot of
before you
questions.
start, yeah, there's a lot of
Right.
question. If
Okay.
you miss it, right,
Mm,
we will cover a bit at the
okay.
end. And also for
Okay.
those who are with us the first time or who have not been to our cancer care talk,
Mm,
Vincent is also in the cancer care project together with me and Huisin.
mm,
So maybe Vincent can share uh, either through your presentation or later in the
mm,
Q&A, like
mm.
how does somatic movement relate to cancer? Okay,
Okay.
so
Yeah.
Vincent, hope you will be able to, you know,
Okay.
share with us your ideas and your expertise, please.
Okay, so just to talk about semantic work, my first understanding of semantic came when I was in, it was 1999. So 1999, I was actually in the dance department. And yeah, you know, when you read, when you find out more things that is actually within your vicinity, you know, because I was actually doing engineering. And then from engineering, I jumped ship to the performing arts. And reason why I do that was I just couldn't sit down in a desk and look at chip, you know, for 8, 9 hours a day. It was killing my spirit. But I have to say that I met amazing engineers, and some of them are really like, you know, grandmasters. They really understand what they are doing with the chips and the design and all those systems. But having that brain actually brought me into deeper into this work when I jump into the arts. So I'll share a little bit more about the journey. So semantic work started in 1999. And to answer the first question, you know, what is semantic movement? So semantic movement is a conscious way of moving that pays attention to the internal experience of the body, right? Through a slow and deliberate process to become aware of your personal responses. Okay, let's slow down a bit in case that was quite a mouthful or mindful for you, right? Is that when you move slow, you start paying attention, right? If you move really fast, you don't pay attention to what happens. So most people get injured is because they are moving too quick. There is no pause before the injury happens. There's always a tipping point, right? And then once you slow down, you become deliberate and then you start paying attention to the little things, right? Then, if you want to refine the control, right, or improve the experience, you can make a decision during that space. But if you have it, you know, if you have your movement done way too quick, you might actually miss the point. So it's like driving a fast car on a highway, right? And you just see shades of green. You don't really see trees, you know. But if you actually slow down the car, you actually see trees, and then maybe you see a bird, and maybe you see the color of the bird, right? So it's not so much about speed and strength all the time. You know, it's actually about how things are connecting or not connecting and why are they like this. So the objective of semantic movement education, which is the different modalities of therapy, is for people to understand, hey, you know, maybe I have some unconscious bias that is actually programmed into me, right? How do I get hold of all this unconscious bias, pay attention to them, and then help myself, you know, go through the challenges or the blocks, right? So in short, that is semantic movement. And the key characteristics of semantic movement includes, yeah, I want to just reiterate is that it must be conscious and conscientious, of course, right? And you are paying attention to the internal experience, not the external experience, the appearance. For example, in dance, you know, most of the time people are always trying to look good. You have a particular shape, right? This is more on an aesthetic purpose, but aesthetic purpose can actually be detrimental to the anatomy. For example, you might be bending something way too much and it's actually painful, but for the sake of aesthetics, you bear with the pain, right? And like everyone always says, right, you know, we hear it all the time, no pain, no gain. In somatic work, it should not be that way, right? It should be understanding what causes that pain and why, and then how can we alleviate that pain and not hold on to that pain and let it out of our bodies. Yeah. And of course, slowing down is very important. And it's not about doing like 3 sets 15 times, right, for the quantity, but actually paying close attention to the quality of the movement. So these are four key characteristics of somatic movement, right? And if you want to talk about the modalities, then we go into somatic movement education, right? There are various modalities that actually educates you in different manners. The focus is a little different. So you have LABA movement analysis, where you actually understand, the different aspect of analyzing movement from body, effort, shape, and space. And then, of course, you have clinical somatics, Thomas Hanna, Dr. Thomas Hanna. And of course, you have Bartender Fundamentals, which is the student of Laban, is Irmgard Bartender, right? So, yeah. And you have Body Mind Dancing. This is a work of Dr. Martha Eddy. And also Moving for Life, another work of Dr. Martha Eddy. She also does dynamic embodiment, which is a comprise of the body mind dancing, the movement, the moving for life, uh, BMC work, right? Body mind centering by Bonnie. Okay. And of course, there is Alexandra technique, there's Feldenkrais. I mean, there's tons. So if you want to find out more about this, I mean, out of the things that I've listed, I've trained in, except the last two, but the principles are very much similar. So from Laban movement analysis to moving for life, I've had the opportunity to train with amazing teachers and be certified myself in those areas. If you want to find out more, you can actually read this book, Mindful Movement. This is by Dr. Martha Eddy, and I had a little short snippet in that book too, if you are keen to find out what I wrote. Okay, so and of course, what led me to this work. So if I were to go, more concise touch points, because I'm over 40 years old, and what's really happening is this is too much information, right? The in between. So I'll just talk about when I was born at 3 months old. I had a hole in the heart that was being diagnosed. It's called a ventricular septal defect, which is the wall that divides the left and right chamber, right? Actually has a hole, right? We call it a lobang. So this hole actually um allows the good and bad blood to mix, and that's not a good thing. Okay, so of course my mom got really protective that I cannot do pretty much anything. When I was in kindergarten, just to have a ball in between my thighs and hopping to another partner and pass the ball, that was like 3 4 meters. I wasn't allowed to do that. So can you imagine what it does to a child's emotion as well as the mental capabilities, right? They start thinking, how come I can't do this? Why is everyone playing and I'm sitting out and I'm not allowed in? So that actually led me to find ways to make things happen. You call it the naughty boy or you call it the creative boy, depending on who is looking at it. But for me, I really found an innate way when my heart's not working too well. I found a way which is it saves my life, because the doctor said I wouldn't live past 16, and today I'm still here sharing this with you. And I think there is a mission for me, and this calling that I'm actually undertaking. Sometimes it's hard. When you dig deeper into this work, sometimes you don't know if you're digging a grave for yourself or you're digging and finding gems. But we'll see. I've been digging for a while now, and the whole objective here is to really help people understand that you can actually access your body and learn so much about it, because it is not so divisive like psychology, psychiatry, neurology, physiology, etc., etc., right? But when you are in action, when you're in function, all those factors, all those different aspects come together and you make decision. Everything happens so quickly. Question is, are you aware why you do what you do and why you respond the way you do? So with the hole in the heart, it led me to a lot of challenges, but of course, trying to overcome the challenges together with my family, that wasn't easy as well. My parents are, having kind of like a separation. My dad was never really there. So I was trying to find things to gel things together, to glue things together, to bridge things together. So all in all, that part was a very major part, because it was a mechanical problem of my body. It's congenital, and not being able to do things, I try to make the impossible possible by realizing the possibilities and making them a reality. So I went on to do dance, right? I won't tell you about the drumming experience and all that, but those are small stuff. But I did, those are very contributing factors. So I actually went to dance and quit engineering. And then, had my first trip out when I was not even allowed camping when I was in primary school, took my first trip to Australia, performed and did a lot of stuff. And then came back, served army, choreographed for the National Day parades, and then working with Ministry of Education, Singapore Armed Forces, choreographing more than 700 packs of performers. And then and then I actually went to Netherlands to audition, and I got accepted. And I was like, whoa, what is that about? And yeah, one thing led to another. I was very lucky to get this scholarship by the Shell National Arts Council. And I guess what really paid off was that I decided not to sit at a desk. I won't say this is for everyone. You must be willing to have a mission of do or die, right? And I told my mom when I was 17, 18, I said, if you don't support me in this dance thing, it's fine. I'm just going to do it on my own. And I turned my back and there was a tear, dropping down and thinking, oh, what did I just do? What am I going to do next? Where's the money going to come from? So yeah, fast forward to graduating as the first boy from LaSalle College of the Arts, right? Uh, yeah, and also graduating as the most outstanding student and being the valedictorian of that year. Something that I've learned is all those awards and accolades are not something that I strive for. I actually strive for one thing. I want to do what I want. In case I'm gone, I don't want to regret my life. So with that mentality, I just pushed on, and whatever that came during the process and journey, I felt like it was a blessing. It was like, okay, you have earned your stars and stripe. This is one stripe, and then this is another. And I took them to Netherlands, and I said, what else can I do then? And I saw amazing performers, amazing artists, amazing choreographers, teachers. And I learned a lot of things from cultural aspects and how to deal with people, how to deal with society, right? And then, of course, I came back. I was planning to go to sign another contract. Then 6 months later, my mom passed. So that was one of the most challenging times in my life. And can you imagine what I did afterwards? I just worked continuously 7 days a week for 6 years. And I didn't stop to take a break. I just want to keep myself busy. And yeah, and that led me to another world. Woke up and then I said, what am I doing? You know? And yeah, so I left Singapore after writing two programs for the NAFA, National Academy of Fine Arts, and after lecturing for LaSalle, I realized I can't just be working, 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 not knowing what to do. And it was also then that I met a lady, right? I wanted to get married, and I put everything aside in Singapore, and I thought I'm gonna make this work. But 4 months after I arrived in New York, things didn't happen the way uh, I envisioned. So there was this quite dramatic actually. There was this blizzard going on, and I was moving out of the house, and they were saying, please don't go out. It's the blizzard, it's gonna kill you and all that. Trains are stopping to work. And I remember pulling my suitcase, moving from one place to another. This kind of stories I don't tell a lot of people, but today, I'll just share this. And it's really having that I don't know, maybe to a certain degree, that level of stubbornness to push through certain things that you think are not fit for your life, and you want to improve them, right? And you don't want to be bogged down by things that is holding you back. So I started working, with amazing people, and one of the thing that I did was to actually study with Dr. Martha Eddy on top of being with the Laban Institute, Movement Institute, right? Is to actually study with her as well, and working with cancer patients, working with Peridance Capizio Center, finding out about movement, finding about our bodies, finding about how it affects our space and how space can affect the body, how environment, and having a study on that. And wow, it was really mind blowing. And this was something that I have experienced in the Netherlands. And now I've found myself going deeper, and that led me to presenting in Harvard, in different places, upon coming home. And yeah, these are the amazing teachers. So I was talking about body mind centering. You have Bonnie Bainbridge, which is the second picture on the top. Virginia Reed, the late Virginia Reed, inspired me a lot. And she was always saying, meet me in my office. And her office is actually in the park. It's an amazing lady. When she passed on, her family came to me, And I was like, whoa, what did I do, you know? And he said, you, you have no idea who you are. I said, I don't know who I am. He said, you gave her so much life. I said, I thought she was the one that's giving me so much life, you know, and we had such great communications. And from Virginia to, you know, and also Ellen. Ellen was my supervisor for this work that I was doing in analysis work. And she's one of the expertise in understanding how, you know, gestures, postures, and integrated movement has an impact in people. Yeah, she wrote a book about that. And then, of course, working with Dr. Martha Eddy, you know, and working with amazing teachers. And one of them that I did ballet with when I was there, you know, just to find my sanity and my center, was Igal. Igal was an amazing teacher with an amazing background. So having that coming to Singapore, I wanted to bring somatic work everywhere, whether it is social, whether it is elderly care, whether it's presenting on the Dance Medicine and Science Conference, going to VR, going to behind bars with the juveniles, um, pals of us in the society who perhaps made decisions that wasn't very helpful for them and that landed them in this space. And, you know, even parent and child. So I just want to bring somatic work everywhere because we all move. Yeah. Question is, do you know how you are moving and why you are moving the way you do? Why are you getting sick? Right? Why are you not feeling better? What are the decisions that you are making that is resulting in you not knowing that you are actually coping, right? And our coping mechanism based on what kind of options we have and what kind of decisions we take actually reinforces, you know, the downward spiral, like playing with handphones, you know, smoking, obesity is actually one of the greatest thing about obesity, for example, is people make decisions that is not known. So in not just attacking that problem, actually we need to understand what causes that problem in the first place. Yeah. So I brought my work back into the art scene. I really love these arts because it gives me another side to think about. You know, I think arts and science is actually one because hypothesis is creative, right? For any person who has an idea, they are trying to ask questions, and that becomes a creative process. And for artists, they always want to find structures and you know what kind of um, outline and skeleton we can actually hold on to. So you see, both are actually complementing one another. In fact, they are both very inseparable. So I took on this movement work and, you know, put the kinesiology, the anatomy work, the physiology work into the creative movement and how people are actually moving in a society and in our lives. And yeah, so what I do now is basically to help people understand trauma, right? I usually don't call it trauma because it's a very difficult word. It means it's an experience that is totally distressing. And so I usually say chronic pain, right? People understand chronic pain, but people don't understand or perhaps wouldn't know that they have trauma. So it could be an emotional one. It could be a physical one because you broke something and it causes you fear. And it could be something that psychological impacts your brain, right? And then, of course, the overall person, right? And actually, trauma creates the need for you to recreate yourself. If you have an understanding of what is not working for you and you suddenly pay attention to that, that is already open up a very important window. So in my work, I split them into three categories from group therapy to private therapy to educational work. And I think it's really important for people to understand that the work can be done in such in a variety of depths, right? If you are able to understand that and affect people accordingly, then they will get the most out of the process or the experience. So for group therapy, I deal with therapeutic classes using dance or movement, right, for stroke, cancer, mental health, and also people who are adults, right, working in corporate fields or people who might be doctors. And yeah, they need to de-stress, right? So there is a space for them to access and then to feel their bodies without feeling like, oh, I need to do something again. I need to perform on the optimal level. So the way that I conduct my dance classes is very different from a performative one where people are just learning choreographies, trying to be better than the other. But it's actually focusing on the process, right? When you focus on the process, again, it's slowing down. again is breathing the dance, again is moving the body, and again is connecting the brain and the body, because everything needs to be integrated, right? And for private therapy, is people who perhaps have sports injury, or they have repetitive abuse. I've got clients who um, various backgrounds, from physical abuse to sexual abuse. And what I do is I actually look at the body, what the body is playing out, right? And how the body can actually impact the emotion and rewire certain narrative that is in their mind, right? So it's really important to understand what we are saying to ourselves, not just what the world is saying to you, because what you say to yourself can sometimes be so consuming that you start to hear voices. So yeah, I mean, so understanding semantic work is powerful, but I find coming back to Singapore, there's a huge challenge, because people tend to look at things as problems, and then they want solution. They don't see that the constitute of this is how we have dealt with life through the whole process of coping. This coping mechanism can actually bring people into, oh, I want to feel better, and the decisions that they start doing, right? I think it's also to understand what is actually coping. you know what does coping means? Is it the nervous system trying to release certain nerves that they feel, or anxiety attacks where the heart rate is going faster and faster, where you are sweating in your palms, and when you are tightening in your muscle, grinding your teeth like this, are you able to, just by doing something so simple can have very powerful effect. And these are all movement, you know. Movement need not be big. The blood flowing in our bodies is also movement. Us swallowing is movement. When you find you are tensing, the muscles are tensing, when you find that you can't breathe anymore, how about putting it in front of your chest or your stomach, right? And just pay attention to that quality of the body. And you are actually the first access point, even before paramedics can access you. If you are able to help yourself, I'm sure somebody can help you better. But if you can't even help yourself, and there's a window period, which we call time, right? And space for people to get from their place to your place, is up for anybody's guess, right? So the objective in teaching movement is to get you to be competent and in awareness of yourself. And of course, this can be taught on a national level, on a institutional level, in education, workshops, talks, and trainings, how to improve your flow, right? The way you think, the way you do stuff, the way you even speak, right? How do you pace whatever you are saying in such a way where people actually want to listen to you, for example, right? And then mental health, productivity, performance, and precision, right? So in group therapy, for example, stroke, I just take it out as one of the case study, right? They have mental, physical limitations, right? Because there is an insult to the brain, right? There's an aneurysm, or they may have something that impacted the way so that they cannot lift their arms. So what do you do? So I do somatic dance therapy, and in the process, I facilitate fun and gentle dance movement that focus on reactivating and rewiring the brain and body connection. So it's not so much as doing it 5 times, 10 times, 15 times, 3 sets. No, no. It's understanding why they are not able to lift the arm, and then find a way. So in neuroplasticity work, right? So if one thing doesn't work so well, it's okay. We have a friend, right? If you can't lift your left arm, take the other friend, lift the arm, and support. So what this does is, now the right and left brain starts communicating. They go, I'm assisted, but yet I feel this cross connection, because the right and left brain actually works on the whole body. It's not just up and down, but it's also crisscross. So cross lateral movement, which is actually coming from the neurodevelopmental work, is so powerful. Understanding that can actually help a patient, right, that is suffering from stroke, to actually see how else can they shift their body, right? And of course, the earlier you access this, the better. Except that in Singapore, we are not accessing this work yet. And I sometimes find it like, and I want to say a lot of things, because I've seen some stuff that is being done, and I know that it can be better, because it's in the moment. You can't just send somebody who has stroke to different departments, right? In fact, the different departments must come together and work on them. And somatic work, because it's movement, it happens right at the same time, right? But I know that there is a need for divisive work because, the financial taxes, right? Or financial tax, um, it's very taxing on the people that's performing the work. So we need to actually get more people. That's why a lot of healthcare workers are actually very, very tired. And I mean, kudos to them. They're doing all that they can. But how can we bring down the cost? How can we improve and write different policies? I mean, that's a total different work. So the result is they get empowered and they get, a very joyful process and they get breakthrough sessions after sessions. And when people are suffering from, trauma, for example, this guy has got a 20 cm ACL torn, right? And my whole objective here, this is in the third space of my work with them, right? Which is the rewiring process. And here you can actually see that they are going through a process of moving. I don't know if the video can be played. Maybe it can. Yeah. Okay. So you can't see anything, but it's okay. Sometimes it does happen. Now, what is really happening here is I basically make him sit on the floor and then go all the way through the process to standing. And I did it so slow that at every incremental change of a joint, not just the shoulder, but the hip and the body all at the same time, that he's able to navigate so that his brain starts learning, oh, this need not be painful. So he learned new ways to move that actually stop the pain from troubling him. Now that is very powerful, right? And of course, the result is they experience change in the first session, and then, I work with them for a short period of time because I believe that they must be accountable for their own work, right? It cannot be dependent on a therapist. Therapy in itself is not about dependence. It's actually helping your clients to be independent. So I put a lot of work and a lot of stress on myself to a certain degree that I have to get them to do certain things, and within this very short time frame, they must be able to do stuff, right? Without them actually feeling forced, but actually studying their body, their movement, so that I know that the brain is actually calm to take in the information. Like I was saying, you drive a fast car, you only see shades of green, but you slow it down, you actually see trees, you actually see the birds. And of course, then they graduate, from these sessions. And on the educational and training manner, right, is to bring people together, whether it is for team building, whether it's well-being, whether it's on health, right, is to facilitate immersive and interactive semantic games and activities, right, so that they are able to get into a process of awareness, not just for themselves, but of the people in the space, right? And they usually get rejuvenated and they feel like they have gotten deep insights when they are working with people. I think one of the most important thing that I've learned also, people start learning what forgiving others means and how do they bond. So these are just the different things, some of my clients say, yeah, there's tons. It's been quite a while in this work. This is my 21st year, and I find there's still a lot more work to dig. So sometimes I really say, I don't know if I'm digging my own grave. And yeah, so I also work with different agencies to help them, look at different things and say, hey, can we, impact the society in different ways? Can we impact, our bodies, our minds, and our families in ways that, we don't usually think about, right? So yeah, from national agencies to MNCs to schools, hospitals, NGOs, and of course, that work led me to being presented on various platforms. And I am really thankful for this opportunity because, like I said, I live with a do or die mission. And this is a calling for me. And if I don't do this work, I really don't know what I can do. I can try to make orange juice. I think that's fun too. But I think I really want to expand this work so that more people can access it. Yeah, Mariam is smiling, right? I'll make orange juice for you, someday when we actually meet again. And one important video that I want to show you people is this.
再来做多2遍。今天老师这样调了，我才知道原来是因为我的膝盖这样一直往逆，因为我蹲的时候我是往内嘛，不是往。
So she has a problem with the knee, right? So I was actually talking about how the body
就好
facilitates.
像这边有一个5000块啊，你踩着了不跑掉了。哎，good，再来做多2遍。
今天老师这样调了，我才知道原来是因为我的膝盖这样一直往内，因为我蹲的时候我是往内嘛，不是往外。
快点往后哦，往后往下。
我有韧带受伤过，然后也看了中医、西医，这个动作已经让我好多年都没有做过了，但是我很感动，我可以做到了。我们
So yeah, what she's saying is she hasn't been able to squat for a really, really long time. First time I saw her, she wasn't even able to get down to the floor. And look at her, she's a very young lady, right? And what I really want to implore, right, to everyone is pay attention to how you move every single day. That came from your cognitive responses that you have programmed for many, many years before, right? And it carries a certain level of emotions with it. When you can't do something and you start realizing, and it can be very debilitating because you feel like, oh my God, I'm useless. I can't do this anymore. Am I getting old? It's not that you're getting old, it's that you haven't found a way to heal. And one important way to find healing is to understand how the brain and the body connects again instead of blocking it, right? So yeah, so by and large, this is my work in 3 sentences, like Dr. Mariam has shared. And yeah, if you want to connect with me, uh, these are the places you can connect with me so that I can help everyone to experience their own integrative, intuitive, and inspiring way to heal as well as to grow. So, what do I bring to this cancer care? As you ask, I'm quite surprised actually. Till this time, I actually remember the questions without asking for a prompt. I think it's the nerve that you have given me, doctor. You're like, and and that keep me on my toes. I think that's really cool. Thank you so much for passing that nerves over. And one of the thing that I find I bring into the cancer care work is actually the insights. I think info everybody can Google and find, and there's expert um, expertise around, experts that you can access and ask, right? Those are information. But I think insights are really what is needed now when if you want to bring the time shorter and you want to make sure that during this process of time, the person's emotions don't go somewhere else and then it becomes like quite irreversible or very tough to reverse, right? So understanding the work here, I think being in this work for a while and also with having the engine brain, I bring to this game a level of framework, I would say, that sometimes is not being used. Frameworks are important so that we have flags, right? Okay, we have done this point and then we have another checkpoint, we have another checkpoint, all those different flags that we can plant on to say that, okay, we've done that, so we can move now to the next point. Yeah, frameworks actually give us a process so that we can repeat an outcome, right, that we want, right, rather than just, try hitting a pinata with your eyes blindfolded. That's not going to work very well. And also the integrative approaches, being trained in various modalities and putting the science and arts together. I've understood, the two major important things that we need to know, which is the why and how. Why this thing is happening? That's the science. How can we do it? That's the art, that I've summarized. Because how we all do something, everyone can squat, but everyone squat differently, and everyone fires the muscles differently. So, for example, if you want to go from an angle of kinesiology or biomechanics, it can be very different as opposed to you accessing squats from understanding your intestines and understanding your kidneys, understanding your liver. Yeah, most people don't cue things like this as well. So the cueing part is also very important. When I was working in US with a cancer convention, this is in Vermont. Yeah, one of the most amazing thing that I experienced in this place is every year, once every year, people can go to this ski resort, right? And they don't need to pay. Cancer patients can go there and experience whatever therapy, intervention modalities there is out there. And I was very, very blessed to be with Dr. Martha Eddy and a group of us, going there to support this event. And that really broadened my mind about cancer care. So yeah, I mean And one of these trainer was saying, hey Vince, you're a very specific cue master, you give the right words at the right time. And I said, well, because I was in pain before, I knew how it felt. And as a dancer, sometimes when cues are not given to you very correctly, you don't know how to initiate movement from the right place, right? So there's 4 I's that I write about in my book. One of them is the intention. You got to clarify it. And then the initiation. Initiation, you got to be precise about it. And the itinerary is the journey. The journey, you got to be present, right? And of course, the interchange, you got to breathe, right? You got to relax. You got to calm down and not just work, but actually have a space to go. Just like putting the hand on your face when you get nervous, right? When you feel the jaw tightening, or in fact, front of your neck, right? When you feel like you are tense, you can't breathe. Yeah. Yeah, you can actually impact a lot of people like this when for example, asthma, right? Before the asthma has an attack, there's always a lead in. If you can cut the pattern of the lead in, can you imagine what you can do? You can literally save your own life or the people around you. It's like, you know, and me having a hole in my heart, I can tell you it's no fun not being able to breathe well, and not fun having blood not able to get to all parts of your body where it's supposed to be, right? And of course, the holistic look that is important, which we sometimes don't look at. We just look at the location, and in parts instead of as a whole. The holistic approach is the systemic approach, and understanding how various systems comes together to help you find this sense of wholesomeness. Yeah, and I find this is really the thing that I can bring into the cancer care work. And being a cancer exercise specialist, it is not so much what you teach, right? Because like I say, you need to know the why, you need to know the how. And when that is good, then you know what to, administer. So most people say, movement is medicine. I agree with that. No problem about that. I totally agree. But because if it's like medicine, then movement must be administered accurately and correctly to certain people, because not everyone can do everything. And how do you met that out? That is very important. So yeah, I think this is what I have for now, and I've been speaking for a mouthful. How are you sitting there, doctor, and everyone that's tuning in?
Yeah, it's I can just, as I mentioned before, I think I can, when you talk, I can listen on and on and on because it's always very interesting. And
Thank
I'm
you.
always learning something new every time that I'm listening to you, like which every time we have some talks, or when you share your other sessions that you have or interviews, is always very interesting for me. And
Thank you.
today is okay, so maybe we can stop share because I
Okay.
want to share something
Yeah.
after this.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so today I mean, for me, it's really meaningful, whatever you're sharing today. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm really grateful that you shared something really personal because, as you mentioned, that it's not something that you often share.
Mm.
And I'm really grateful that you chose to share it with us today here. Um, and um, yeah, I think you answered all my questions. Super memory, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
you
think,
really
yeah.
remembered all the questions. Yeah. I think that was the thing, right? Like, because I've been a cancer researcher, and my work has been mainly in the lab. So I
Mm,
learned about the mechanism of
mm,
cancer
mm,
in the cellular level, and like
mm,
the processes that happen in the body. But
mm,
then my work doesn't reach to the stage where I interact with people and getting to know about the whole body effect of the
mm,
cancer. And I think that's where, when we first get to know each other, and then you mentioned to me about your work in cancer, and it's actually different from what I do, and it's from a totally different angle. Like, you deal with the stress level,
mm,
right? I
mm.
think that was what you mentioned, that in your work
Yeah.
with the cancer
Yeah.
patients. Do you want to share a bit about that, perhaps?
Okay. So I think when it comes to cancer therapy, we need to first understand there's a lot of symptoms, right, that happens after the therapy, such as chemotherapy, right, or radiation, or they have surgery, they actually, experience fatigue, or maybe some of them after a long time of fatigue, they don't do anything because they are always tired. There's muscle loss, and there's lymphedema, right? There's also um, nerve issues, neuropathy. So we need to understand on a person on so many different levels. Maybe because they're also losing hair, they are not um, having sex with their partners, and that can actually having an create a gulf and an issue because of fear and uncertainties and a lot of words that are not being um, transpired or communicated. That can cause a whole series of rippling effect just because they had a chemo. So can you imagine, just like I always say, right? This is going to sound a little controversial. When you kill your cells, you kill yourself. Now, why do I say that? And we know that chemo not just affect the good cells, it also affect, the bad cells, but also affects the good ones. So how can we learn, a level of administering the drug, for example, right, or the medicine that actually has no side effects. Now, I'm not on the lab, right? I think that's the work of Dr. Mariam and your colleagues worldwide. But I think it's also important to have the aspect of people that are working on the ground, because when you are working in the lab, maybe you might not consider emotions. Maybe you might not consider relationship between husband and wives. You might not consider social space, right? Like I was sharing about the work, the soma social effect, right, of movement is great. The soma, meaning our body, is built from inside out. The social impact, if your hair is not on your head anymore, what happens is you tend to feel lesser than who you think you were. And when you're out in the public, when you're facing your loved ones, you tend to have a lot of mental narrative that is running that no one can access because they cannot read your brain, they cannot read your mind. And that has an impact on you too. Say if you're a teacher, you go to school like this, would you still work? Are you afraid of what the students will say, or your teachers, or maybe you are still taking a long leave of break and that would impact your income? And then maybe you have to claim insurance. So you see, just by that one thing, right, a cell that starts to multiply also multiply a lot of effects in your life. So it is understanding how then do we deal with the symptoms in such a way where it considers the human heart. When you work in a therapeutic manner and if you don't consider the human heart, then I say you don't have the art. HEART, right? We want to find the art in every way that we do so that we are able to impact people on a spiritual level as well. And spiritual work is, or rather, should I say, not spiritual work, but the spirituality is usually a topic that is not being mentioned too much when you are doing, you know, quote unquote chemotherapy, right? And that's why the people who are, believers in whatever they believe in, they bring, their own spiritual reinforcement into the game. And of course, we have that. And that's why we have such a word in English, right? You say, oh, that guy is in great spirit today, right? And that basically means that the person is on a positive attitude, right? Or maybe he's bubbly, maybe he is inspiring, or maybe he's inspired. So all those things actually have an impact when you are just dealing with lymphedema or neuropathy, for example, when the leg is swelling, you know, is it because, the limbs are not working? And can you lie this person down? What if the person also have back pain? Can you shift your approach then, right? It is not saying, oh, I can't do this, therefore let's not do it. No, find a new way. Find a new way to adapt because, two person with knee pain, they don't feel it the same way. Two person with cancer, they don't experience it or fight it the same way. And how they are fighting it is because of who they were inherently before they even are diagnosed. I lost my mom to brain tumor, and that's why this thing sits very close to my heart. And I've seen when my mom was on the IV drip, right, and when she was being lifted from the bed, the needle actually went the other way. And I was like, "Come on, you're not looking at this," And I was playing the child, I was playing the son, Do you know how much it was in me? And I have to calm it down and try to put on a different hat and say, Vince, understand that they might be overworked. But then the son quickly came on and said, but that does not mean that it should not look at, what's the training like? So I could challenge a lot of things, but I think rather than challenge, now being an educator is to understand things from various perspectives and then see what is needed. And can we come up with a new system to actually understand movement that is being applied from a healthcare point of view, or from a therapeutic care point of view, or from personal care? When the person is not with their therapist, what can they do with their bodies? How should they move? What are the decisions that impacts the way they move? We need to understand that. And these are not easy things because it's big. But once you understand and begin to find your own unconscious bias, once you start uncovering them, once you start discovering them, you recover a very big part of you, right? And I think this is what cancer care really means, right? Is to care for the person, right? And in fact, if I may even challenge us sometimes, right, in terms of nomenclature, is it cancer care or is it human care, right? Sometimes we need to also ask that.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
it's true.
so I mean, these are things, sometimes people don't think about, but I think, someone has to say it, even though it's controversial, so that it makes us think, so that it makes us question, is this a better approach? Right? Yeah. I mean, so
Mm.
this is my little share.
Controversials, yeah, controversials are what make science grow, science
Mm,
and medicine, and in
yeah.
fact humanity, I would say. If we are just following, right, I think we will still be chasing, or dinosaur will be chasing us, or we will be chasing some meat, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is additional like insight into the cancer care project, and I think right now I would like to share also that we do have an upcoming program.
Mm.
So Vincent already mentioned about this. Okay, now I don't know why my computer does not want to share. Do you see something,
Yeah,
Vincent, or
it's
is
a
it
little
right?
bit yeah, you can unshare and share again perhaps.
Yeah. Okay. So um, so the cancer care that we have been talking about, this is a collaboration between Vincent, myself, and one of our friends who is a nutritionist, a clinical nutritionist, Hui Sin. Okay, so we have come together and we have brought to the table different aspects of cancer care. Myself, having the experience in the lab and knowing more about, what are the mechanisms, and the scientific aspect of it. And then Hui Sin, who share more about the diet and how, like diet can can contribute to cancer formation, as well as how we can use diet to help manage the uh, cancer treatment related side effects. Okay, and we have Vincent who has been with us today in this session, and Vincent will be covering about the tension release, the pain relief, and how to sleep into sleep. You like tongue twisters, right? Don't you, Vincent?
Yeah, become
So
a little thing with words. Yeah.
yeah, so these are the aspects that we would like to cover in this cancer care, so that we can bring a more wholesome idea, a more holistic approach on how we can deal with this big thing called cancer. And
Mm.
actually, it's very hard for us to put a price to this program, because when we want to take into account, individual fees, actually it will be coming up to almost like 1,000 or something, and that is not what we want, because what we aim to achieve with this program is that we want to have it as available, for it to be available to as many people as possible. So we have come to a very conservative price, okay, for this course, and it's just to cover the basics, like in place of what uh, what we will be doing like now consulting work. So right now we have the promotion at 197 with the promo code of MHVS, and you can find it on this link bit.ly cancer care part 1, and we will be putting up the programs within around May. Okay, so once you register, you will get access to the vault, but then we will only start the program in May. So I really welcome all of you to join if you want to get to know more about cancer care. If you are a person who has cancer, or a family member having cancer, or if you are in the care side, okay, and you want to get an idea about the holistic approach to cancer care. And another program that I have is more on the, okay, if not everybody has cancer, thankfully, and we want to look on the health aspect. Okay, so I have another program where I share about the 8 components of wellness and how to achieve the balance in life. And this is more talking about the preventive aspect, so that when we are aware of what are the components of wellness, what constitute our wellness, then we will be able to strive towards the work-life balance. Okay, and this is an introduction, so we have it at 38, and then later on, if you like to go further, we will have 8 different instructors that will be working with us on the different aspects of the wellness. And it will be updated on my Eventbrite, so you can look out for me on Wellness with Dr. Mariam on Eventbrite. And yeah, so that's what I would like to share about the programs that we have coming up. And I think we have gone actually almost an hour, and I really thank you, Vincent, for spending that time with us today, and also to the audience for spending your valuable time to listen to us sharing about wellness and health. And in particular today, we share about movement and how it affects our health. And please, if you found my YouTube page, like the page and subscribe and share with your friends. And I will also include in the link to Vincent's contact. Okay, and we can keep in touch. So with that, thank you very much, and see you in the next program.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
everyone, and thank you, Doc. Thank you, audience. See you very, very soon.